So I recently came across a very interesting article called "The Real Story on the Chakras." Apparently, this was uploaded or posted to this website, harish.org, on February 5th, 2016. I wish I had found this way earlier, but it's kind of fine because, like, the conclusions that this document or this page comes down to are the same things that I also came to on my own from just considering what magic systems are, what chakras are presented as, and what chaos magic is. Because a lot of this goes into like chaos magic, which is what all magic systems are. All magic systems are basically chaos magic. They've just been used so popularly that uh they become commonly understood systems, and then it becomes culture because a large amounts of people are buying into the same belief system, which is basically what the modern interpretation of chakras are. It's become a belief system. It has less to do with what the original purpose of chakras were, and more about how they can culturally engineer the meaning of chakras in order to control the energy output and where the energy flows. Instead of it generally being sourced from you and helping you, you're sending your energy up to some other higher deity or some other outside force. So this article says here the six most important things you never knew about the chakras. Over the past 100 years, the concept of the chakras, or subtle energy centers within the body, has seized the Western imagination more than virtually any other teaching from the yoga tradition. Yet, as with most other concepts deriving from Sanskrit sources, the West, barring a handful of scholars, has almost totally failed to come to grips with what the chakra concept meant in its original context. So, we're talking about what it was when the people first created chakra systems. We're going to the source, the origin. So, first, how do we find chakra in the tantric traditions from which the concept derives? Chakras are focal points for meditation within the human body, visualized as structures of energy resembling discs or flowers. At those points where a number of nadis, which is channels or meridians, converge. They are conceptual structures, yet are phenomenological. There's so many phenomenal phenomenologically based, since they tend to be located where the human beings experience emotional and spiritual energy, and since the form in which they are visualized reflects visionary experiences had by meditators. Above, as I said, the West has so far failed to understand chakras. Let me clarify that by the West, I mean not only Euro American culture, but also the aspects of modern Indian culture that are informed by the Euro American cultural matrix. Since at this point, it is nearly impossible to find a form of yoga in India not influenced by Euro American ideas about it. When I use the term Western, I also include most of the teachings on yoga in India today that exist in the English language. So I've also been finding this that a lot of the Eastern teachers are still purporting the same seven chakra system that has become popularized today, which was them being influenced by the West, which was influenced by the East. But the West has kind of polluted the original idea of what chakras are. Okay, let me just skip to number one. There's not just one chakra system in the original tradition, there are many. So many. The theory of the subtle body and its energy centers called chakras, or padmas, lotuses, adhas, laxias, I don't know how to say that, focal points, etc., comes from the tradition of tantric yoga, which flourished from 1600 to 1300 CE and is still alive today. In mature tantric yoga, after the year 900 or so, every one of the many branches of the tradition articulated a different chakra system. and some branches articulated more than one. 5 chakra systems, 6 chakra systems, 7, 9, 10, 12, 21, and more chakras are taught depending on what text and what lineage you're looking at. The 7, or technically 6 plus 1, chakra system that Western yogis know about is just one of many, and it became dominant around the 15th century. See point number 4 below. Now I know what you're thinking, but which system is right? Isn't that the question at the end of the day? So there's so many different systems. It's overwhelming. You don't want to learn them all, so you just want somebody to tell you which one is the most accurate one, which one is the most correct one. Well, the answer is not really that simple, or it is that simple, but you might not like the answer. And that brings us to our first major misunderstanding. The chakras aren't like organs in the physical body. They aren't fixed facts that we can study like doctors study neuroganglia, with which the chakras were confused in the 19th century. The energy body, Sukshma Sharira, is an extraordinarily fluid reality, as we should expect of anything non physical and supersensuous. The energy body can present, experientially speaking, with any number of energy centers, depending on the person and the yogic practice they're performing. So they're basically telling you it's free form. It can be any number of chakras depending on what you're practicing. There isn't any set number. So people are creating these systems in the first place, which is how they come about, which is how you learn to them. Somebody had to create it first. It's chaos magic. There isn't one correct system because they're all correct. It's literally codifying the energy body. It's a do-it-yourself project, and it's personal to you. Having said that, there are a few centers which are found in all systems, specifically in the lower belly or sexual center, in the heart, and in or near the crown of the head. So yeah, those are the 3 centers that I believe are pretty much universal between all the different systems. Like the Dantian is used in so many energy practices, uh, as well as the head center. So you can't really go wrong with those if you're trying to create your own chakra system. Where was I? Since these are 3 places in the body where humans all over the world experience both emotional and spiritual phenomena. But apart from those 3, there's a huge variety in the chakra systems we find in the original literature. One is more one is not more right than another, except relative to a specific practice. For example, if you're doing a 5 element practice, you should use a 5 chakra system. See point 6 below. If you're internalizing the energy of 6 different deities, you should use a 6 chakra system. Duh, right? But this is a crucial bit of information that has not yet reached Western yoga. We've only just started down this rabbit hole, Alice. Want to learn more? The chakra system, this is number 2 now. The chakra systems are prescriptive, not descriptive. Let's go into this. This might be the most important point. English sources tend to present the idea that chakra systems tend to present the chakra system as an existential fact, using descriptive language like the muladhara. I don't know how to say that. Chakra is at the base of the spine and it is red. Okay, so like the root chakra. But in most of the original Sanskrit sources, we are not being taught about the way things are. We are being given a specific yogic practice. We are to visualize a subtle object made of colored light, hence the chakras, shaped like a lotus or a spinning wheel, at a specific point in the body, and then activate mantric syllables in it for a specific purpose. They're engineering what the chakra means. They're codifying a frequency into it so that it can be activated for a specific purpose. They told you that the root chakra is like the sexual chakra or the passion chakra, right? Somebody told you that though. That doesn't necessarily mean what it has to be. It can be anything that you codify it to be. They also tell you things like, oh, the root chakra is to the planet Mars, or the sacral chakra to Venus, solar plexus chakra to the sun. Like, they'll line these up with the seven heavenly bodies, like as per astrology. And what they're doing here when they apply all these different extra meanings, these different archetypal or archonic meanings to the chakras, is they're trying to get you to tap into outside energy sources or code a portal so that these outside energy sources can use your energy however they wish. They will also code in weaknesses, so they will tell you a weakness of that same chakra to set up a matrix in which that chakra can be used against you. So they'll tell you something like the root chakra is blocked by fear, or they'll tell you the second chakra above that one, like I would assume the Dantian, is blocked by guilt, and they'll go on and on and on about the weaknesses of each chakra. But this is like a subliminal programming because they're trying to get you to agree to this so that they could install vices and have it affect or put you out of your energetic harmony through creating a subconscious matrix in which you believe that your aura can be offset by a quote unquote negative emotion, because I don't think that there are any negative emotions at all. They're trying to weaponize your emotions against you by making you think that your emotions are evil or that your emotions are something that should be avoided. This is what they try to do, and this is how the archons keep in control, because the seven archons are using these seven different centers of the energy body, which don't actually exist at all, but were told to you, which you subconsciously believed. So you've been channeling and creating these chakras in your body or these energy centers unconsciously without understanding that somebody had to create that system in the first place because it didn't already exist. So somebody is telling you this. Somebody had to spread this mainstream idea to get you to be a energy harvest device for the archons. And that's what the seven chakra system is today. Let's go on with this article. It's going to explain it. When you understand this point number one, that every chakra is programmed for a specific purpose, when you understand that, point number one above makes more sense. Point number one was there's not just one chakra system in the original tradition, there are many. These people were chaos magicians where they would just create their own energy centers and codify it with however or whatever purpose they needed. And it didn't always have to do with deities. We'll get into that in a second. The psychological states associated with the chakras are completely modern and Western. So they tell you right there that the psychological states that they applied were prescribed. They don't describe the chakra, but they were prescribed to the chakra because somebody had to create the system and decide what emotions go to the chakras in the first place. Somebody made this shit up. Okay, the educated yogi should know that all associations of the chakra with psychological states is a modern Western innovation that started with Carl Jung. Also, Carl Jung is to be responsible for some of this bullshit. Interesting. I never really cared about reading any of his stuff because I always felt like some sort of disparagement whenever he started talking. I just like why am I listening to this guy? I just couldn't vibe with it. Perhaps perhaps such associations represent experiential realities for some people, though usually not without priming. but we certainly didn't find them in the Sanskrit sources. So the Sanskrit sources of what chakras are has nothing to do with this Western interpretation of the seven chakra system, the seven uh, the, the the seven personalities, the seven emotions, the seven vices. Has nothing to do with their original shit. There's only one exception I'm aware of, and that is the 10 chakra system for musicians that I've done a blog post on. But in that 13th century system, we do not find each chakra associated with a specific emotion or psychological state. Rather, each petal of each lotus chakra is associated with a distinct emotion or psychological state, and there seems to be no pattern by which we could create a label for the chakra as a whole. But that's not all. Nearly all the many associations found in Enodia Judith's Wheels of Life have no basis in the Indian sources. Each chakra, Judith tells us, is associated with a certain bodily gland, certain bodily malfunctions, certain foods, certain metal, mineral, a herb, planet, Patha Yoga suit of the tarot, Sethera of Jewish mysticism, an archangel of Christianity. None of these associations are found in the original sources. None of them. Judith or her teachers created them based on perceived similarities, what they perceived. That goes for that goes also for the essential oils and crystals that other books and websites claim correspond to each chakra. Now, this is a big key point. They're basically telling you that somebody had to create all this shit and they created it as a marketing scheme. Just like uh, uh, just like Rainbow Children, just like Indigo Children, stuff like that. That stuff was created as a marketing scheme in order to take advantage of the mentally disabled and people with mental disorders. That's what it was created for. Because if you look up the people who started using those terms and popularized those terms, they're all scammers. Every single one of them. They all had something to sell. They were all they were all preaching some type of bullshit new age religion that has nothing to do with anything based in reality or even based in the ancient teachings. They just make up their own shit as it goes along, and they try to somehow tie it back into looking for a sky daddy or somebody to save you, somebody outside of yourself to depend on, so that you can always keep on sending your energy outward instead of channeling it back in where it's supposed to be. Just like the chakra system. If the practice has value, then you don't need to falsify its provenance, right? Number 4, the seven chakra system popular today derives not from an ancient scripture but from a treatise written in 1577. The chakra system Western yogis follow is that found in a Sanskrit text written by a guy named Pananandayati. He completed his text, I'm not even going to try to say that, Explanation of the Six Chakras, which is actually a chapter 6 of a larger work in the year 1577, and it was translated into English exactly 100 years ago in 1918. Holy shit. It was translated to English in 1918. In an earlier version of this post, I called this seven chakra system late and somewhat atypical. But after a few days, I realized I was mistaken. A simpler version of the same seven chakra system is found in 13th century post-scriptural text called the Sarada Talaka. I think that's how you say it. Though that text does plainly acknowledge that there are multiple chakra systems, such as systems of 12 or 16. We also find a more elaborate version of the same system in the 14th or 15th century Siva Samhita. However, the most yogis, both Indian and Western, know the seven chakra system through Punananda's 16th century work, or rather, through the somewhat incoherent and confusing translation of it, done by John Woodroffe in 1918. So the translation itself is also at fault. So we're playing basically a telephone game of something that was originally meant to be free form art. There wasn't any there wasn't any prevailing uh system that was supposed to be the rule of how chakra systems are supposed to be. There was no one system to rule them all. It was basically people creating their own stuff. But it's also true that the westernized seven chakra system, is based on early 20th century occultists' interpretations of a flawed translation of a non scriptural source. This by no means invalidates it, but rather serves to problematize its hegemony. So it's basically telling you here that the chakra system that everybody is aware of today is nothing ancient. Not at all. In fact, a lot of the ideas associated with that or with the modern seven chakra system has basically been up to people's discretion. People just make shit up as they go. Note that tantric Buddhism, e.g. of Tibet, often preserves older forms, and indeed the five chakra system is dominant in that tradition, as well as the more fundamental three bindu system. What is the three bindu system? This I need to know. All right, I'll save that for later. Gonna be my personal homework. Okay, number 5. This one I think is pretty important. The main purpose of a chakra system is to function as a template for nyasa, installation of mantras and deities. Keyword deities here. As far as the original authors were concerned, the main purpose of any chakra system was to function as a template for nyasa, which means the installation of mantras and deity energies at specific points of the subtle body. So, though millions of people are fascinated with the chakras today, almost none of those people are using them for their intended purpose. That's okay. Again, I'm not here to make anyone wrong, just to educate the folks who are interested. So, basically, the chakra system itself is more like emotional augmentation systems. It's to control your behavior. You want to know what else is meant to control your behavior? MK Ultra, psychoactive substances, mind control. So itself, this seven chakra system that's become so popular today is a form of mind control, because they tell you that there's planets that are going with each and every single one of these chakras, and they're telling you how you're supposed to channel these energies, channel these planets, and these planets are the archons. They're setting you up for archon possession. Like this one, the root chakra. The other one said that it was planet Mars. This one says it's planet Saturn. They're basically setting you up. All right. The most outstanding features of the chakra system in the original sources are these three. Number one, that the mystical sounds of the Sanskrit alphabet are distributed across the petals of all the chakras in the system. Number two, that each chakra is associated with a specific great element: earth, water, fire, wind, space. And number three, that each chakra is associated with a specific Hindu deity or deities. This is because the chakra system is, as I said, primarily a template for nyasa. Nyasa, blitz placing. You visualize a specific mantric syllable in a specific location, a specific chakra in your energy body while silently intoning its sound. They're programming the energy body with the energies of deities, giving them a sound so that they channel this sound, they channel this deity. They channel this deity, they channel these emotions. They channel these emotions, they're channeling all of the above. They're channeling this mantra. It's subconscious training. Clearly, this practice is embedded in a culturally specific context in which the sounds of the Sanskrit language are seen as uniquely powerful vibrations that can form an effective parts of a mystical practice that brings about spiritual liberation or worldly benefits through magical means. It either brings about spiritual liberation or worldly benefits through magical means. Worldly benefits through magical means. Isn't that literally what the whole reason why people practice magic is? So that they can reap worldly benefits through magical means? Isn't this the reason why the Jewish mysticists were practicing Kabbalah? Isn't this why in the Old Testament they were sacrificing their babies to Moloch? Because they believed that this golden bull, if they sacrificed their children to this golden bull, that the bigger the prize, or the bigger the sacrifice, the bigger the prize. Isn't that not what's the origin of monotheism is? The one deity worship, because Moloch was a previous name for God. Moloch was Marduk, and Marduk is Jupiter. In Jewish Kabbalah, Yahweh is Jupiter. So Yahweh worship is Jupiter worship, and Jupiter is Marduk. Marduk is Moloch. Actually, Moloch could also be Saturn, because Saturn is Kronos, and Kronos was known for eating their children. So it keeps with the tradition of sacrifice in exchange for worldly benefits. It keeps with the tradition. All of our elites, they're Saturn and Jupiter worshippers. Every single one of them. If they try to say they're Luciferian, they're probably not, or they're actually talking about being on the other side of the satanic elite, which is they're still part of that same family, but they would be the type that would be standing for the liberty of the human race. So that's why we're not completely in slavery, because there is a benefactor somewhere out there. There is a benefactor faction that's on the other side of the satanic faction that wants us all to be in suffering. Otherwise, Earth would be a complete prison, but it's not a complete prison. There's still some things that we can reap from this world. There's still some benefits as far as like, I mean, I don't know. I guess not everything is as bad as it could be, but it could be worse if it wasn't for the benefactor. But the benefactor is still part of the elite. The For the most part, you still have to rely on your own your own responsibility of freeing yourself from the cycle of reincarnation, because only you can do that. Because if you're looking outside yourself, if you're looking for a Jesus or a sky daddy or some type of angelic savior, or some type of someone to channel, you're still doing the wrong thing, because you're not stepping into your own divinity. You're letting these outside forces dictate your destiny. So it keeps on coming back to that. Are you sourcing from yourself, or are you vampire? And the whole point of what I believe spiritual progression is, or spiritual ascension is becoming less of a vampire and more of an energy generator that doesn't have to devour in order to exist. Because that's what everything in this reality does. It has to devour something else. We're just trying to leave less of a mark on this world. I think that's the real journey. Trying to leave the least amount of suffering that you can. Trying to avoid becoming a producer of suffering. And the best way to stick it to the demiurge is try to free as many people from the illusions as possible. Because life has gotten so crazy, especially with the invention of the internet, that they don't even have to enslave people anymore. That's not even the game. The real game is keeping us focused on the material world. Because if they can create smoke and mirrors and illusions to keep us focused on the material world, they basically got our soul. That's all they need now. They just need our attention. All that other shit like suffering, that's just side shit. What they really need is the attention of the divine ones, because the attention itself is what energizes the matrix. We see it from the double slit experiment that when they're not looking, reality is in flux. Matter doesn't know whether to be a wave or a particle when we're not looking at the particles, or when we're not looking at matter, the matter doesn't know what it should be. But when we look at it, it makes its own choice, or it makes a choice to stick to something. That tells us that our consciousness has a direct effect on our reality, even if we don't know it. So if we up the ante, if we up the output, or if we up the input, then we can also increase the output. If we up our spiritual awareness, then we can also increase our capacity to change the area around us, to change our immediate reality, which is why it's so important to practice things like Kundalini meditation, because it is directly increasing the amount of conscious energy that you can hold within the body and within the energy body. It's literally making yourself a conductor for spirit so that you can bring more spirit up there, down here, and become more like your best self up there, which is actually inside, which is the way out is inside. It's increasing your relationship with yourself when you practice these practices. Anything that increases your consciousness is what we should be practicing. Everything else is a distraction. All right. Let's get back to these deities that we're channeling when we use these chakras. Western yogis come to understand what those deities stand for. The practice could be potentially meaningful for them as well, though probably never as meaningful as someone who grew up with these deities as paradigmatic icons emblazoned on their subconscious minds. This is the most important sentence I think out of this entire paragraph. They're literally telling you right now, the juice is the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind is what creates your reality. Whatever you believe to be true becomes solid in the subconscious, and everything um that tries to evoke the subconscious, like rituals, like sigil magic, like different hands, different sound tones, whatever that means to you in your subconscious mind, and whatever you've codified it to mean, is whatever is going to become your reality. This is what magic is. It's doing something in the physical reality. It's going back to the astral realm, to the subconscious realm, and the subconscious realm is like the machine that plays out the necessary scripts in order to manifest it through the physical realm. So it's like a handshake from physical action to astral script that gets pushed out back into the physical realm. This is why attention is so important. And this is why what you think things mean is so important when we're talking about things like magic systems. It all comes full circle. The astral realm is important to the physical realm as it's important to the astral realm. Energy works hand in hand with matter to make everything work. This is why attention is so important, because they're telling you what you're supposed to think. When you go on social media, they tell you what you're supposed to think, what you're supposed to think the world is, what the reality that they want you to believe exists. I'm pretty sure half the shit that we see on the news didn't even happen, but they want you to believe it happened so that they can code a certain frequency into your subconscious, and you can make their reality for them. What did they say about the demiurge? The demiurge is the great plagiarizer. It can't create anything for itself because it is not source consciousness and it doesn't have any access to true imagination. Therefore, it uses us and uses subliminal messaging and all these other sorts of smoke and mirrors illusions to get us to perceive a certain reality that they want us to create for them. It goes deep. It goes absolutely deep. Same thing here. They tell you that all these different chakras mean different gods so that you can allow these gods through your emotions to control you. And they also tell you what negative emotions are associated with each chakra so that if you feel that negative emotion, you're instantly going to think, oh, there goes Saturn. Oh, there goes Mars. Dang it, making me feel horny. God dang it. Thank you, Mars. Thank you, Saturn. Now I'm thinking about you, and I'm sending my energy up to you instead of understanding that I'm giving my energy through my understanding or through my belief that these planets are associated with my emotions. They want you to create that subconscious association for them. That's why they keep on telling you, this is what this means. This is what that means. This is what this chakra means. This is what that chakra means. Because they need you to believe that to your core so that you can manifest that for them and they can use you as a portal for your own energy. It's a big pyramid scheme. And whoever's creating these systems, they must have been paid well. They must have been paid somehow. Because like there's nobody that just makes this shit up for free. Somebody told them to do it. The seed mantras that you think go with chakras actually go with the elements that happen to be installed in those chakras. Okay, so I think this is actually I don't really feel like going into this. Personally, I believe that language, depending on what culture you're from, the same word can have different meanings. It's the same thing. The subconscious associations, the things that we believe to be true. If you believe bog means evil, while another culture thinks bog means good, then whatever understanding you believe to be correct is going to be the one that manifests the reality. Because bog could mean a curse word in one language, and it can also mean love in another language. That's basically the magic of it. All right. So with that said, that's my understanding of chakras. Chakras is basically energy manipulation and energy body coding. It's free form. You can decide whatever chakras you want and whatever they mean. It's all up to you. The seven chakra system is designed for specific purposes of energy harvest because it codifies your vices as well as positive feelings. It's giving gods power over your emotions because once you associate your own emotions with deities, then every time you have that emotion, you're also giving that power to deities in the astral realm. You're powering up egregores that have nothing to do with you. You are not your chakras. Chakras are, some people say that chakras are implants to an extent. To an extent. Depends on how you're looking at it. So yeah, that's all I have to say about chakras. I'll let these new agers decide for you what chakras mean. There's you know, like the head center, the heart center, the dantian. Those are universally known because everybody feels those as centers of emotional energy. But all that other shit that they added on, like the planets that they go to, the gods they signify, the emotions that they have to deal with, all of that is up to your own discretion. They're trying to tell you what they mean for purposes of archonic possession so that you don't have any responsibility or power over your own emotions. Or that if you do feel an emotion, it makes you feel bad for feeling your own emotions, which makes you deny yourself from feeling. It makes you deny yourself from expressing yourself. It makes you demonize your own expressions. So yeah, don't fall for the mind control. Uh, I wouldn't say that I'm beating a dead horse, but I feel like I've explained this in so many ways. I would hope that the listener would understand what I've meant by now. So yeah, This is basically all I had to say. I'm a peace out now.